Hi everyone, I'm Cindy McIntosh with ScotWeek, and this is Whiskey Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to have you here and wanted to display for you today Glenfiddich of William Grant & Sons, and also a little bit of the Balvenie, two of ScotWeek's major sponsored whiskeys by William Grant & Sons. So thank you so much, William Grant & Sons. We appreciate your sponsorship, and just wanted to also let you know that we have a ScotWeek coming up. We have a rugby match, the LA Giltinis, playing at the USC Coliseum on April the 3rd, starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is going to be great fun. So get out to your tartan and your kilts, come along for some prizes, some bagpiping, and a lot of rugby. You can find tickets to our website, which I'll post down below in the link. And also you can find tickets to our red carpet reception on April the 16th. And then we have through our YouTube channel. And again, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss some of our amazing content planned for 2022. We are going to be traveling to Scotland and we want you to come with us. But for now, April 22nd, 23rd and 24th will be all broadcast through our YouTube channel right here. And April 22nd is a special presentation by the Royal Scottish National Orchestra. And April 23rd, starting at 9 a.m., we have ScotCons, which is ScotWeek's business conference, business and innovation. And we have a lot of segments and talks all day long around Scottish businesses, sustainability, and innovation of businesses coming out of Scotland. So you don't want to miss that exciting presentation. And then Sunday is another day full of different presentations, but this is more focused on the history and the culture of Scotland and the arts. So not to be missed, we have over 50 speakers again this year for 2022. And again, you can get a list of all these on our website and more information on our website about all of ScotWeek 2022. Subscribe and like our YouTube channel. We will also be broadcasting live from NYC Tartan Week. So we will be in New York City for April the 6th, Tartan Day, through April the 9th, which is the fun parade. So come with us and come with us to New York, come with us to Scotland. But for now, let's talk a little bit more about Glenfiddich and our Whiskey Wednesday presentation. So I just wanted to point out to you, if you haven't already been to Scotland, please do plan your trip immediately. And I would start looking around at the different places you want to go. And again, come with us on the road this July and August, as we'll be in Scotland broadcasting from there. We have already scheduled all of our whole trip and made our accommodations and reservations. And just let me tell you, I think this is going to be a great year for Scotland. As I was calling around and making reservations, things were getting booked up. So if you're planning to go this year, by all means, get on it, get booked, because things are booking out. But the Glenfiddich distillery is one not to be missed. So if you I like to land in Edinburgh and pick up a car at the airport. I spend a little time there, and then I like to drive up through Perth. And on my drive up through Perth to where my family ancestral home is, which is Moy, which is just south of Inverness, are the Cairngorms, this beautiful, beautiful national park with a beautiful scenery. And through the Cairngorms, and all around are some amazing Speyside distilleries. So Glenfiddich is one of these distilleries. And of course, William Grant & Sons also owns Balvenie. And so they're actually located very near to each other, right around Dufftown. And so if you take the A95, you're going to kind of go through these distilleries. You're going to also see, you're going to pass Arbelor, and some other great single malt Scotch and distilleries. So you want to make a day of it, if not a whole few days of it, and spend some time in the Cairngorms hiking around this beautiful, beautiful countryside in Scotland. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the history of William Grant and his son. So in 1887, William Grant fulfills a lifetime ambition and starts building his own distillery with the help of his 9 children and a single stone mansion. He names it Glenfiddich, which is Gaelic for the Valley of the Deer. which is why there's always a deer on these lovely bottles that are actually triangular in shape. You'll always find a beautiful deer on the front of each one of the Glenfiddich bottles. After a year of hard labor, the first drop of spirits falls from their copper stills on Christmas Day in 1887. So if you can imagine, this is the time of the reign of Queen Victoria. And she, as most people know, had a great love of Scotland. And she came up into the Highlands. And actually, I'm a Macintosh, and I belong to the Clan Hatton Association and what was the Clan Hatton Confederation. And this is a unification of clans in the Highlands of Scotland that dates back to some of these 12 major clans, almost 1,000 years. So there's a lot of history and deep, rich culture in there. But I want to point out the Farquharsons, because this is important during the time of Queen Victoria. The Farquharsons had a beautiful castle called Balmoral, which they sold to Queen Victoria. So she began spending a lot of time with her family in the Highlands during the times of Victoria era. So I just wanted to point that out. Another thing to visit when you come to Scotland. But in 1887, a very Victorian Christmas year, is when the first drops of spirits fall from the copper stills on Christmas Day at the Glenfiddich distillery. Now, it is said that the Glenfiddich number 12 is the most sold single Scotch in the world, which must mean that it's the most also drank single malt in the whole world. For 20 years after the start of William Grant and Sons in 1887, William Grant nurtured a dream to make the best dram in the valley. Now remember, this is known as the Deer Valley. With the help of his family, he finally achieved that vision. In the summer of 1886, with his 7 sons and 2 daughters by his side, William set out to fulfill his ambition. And together they built this distillery stone by stone. William's passion, determination, and pioneering spirit continues to guide us to this day. Glenfiddich is the one of the few single malt distilleries to remain entirely family owned and is now the world's most awarded single malt Scotch whiskey, a true reflection of the founder's innovation nurture passed down through the generations. So when you want to read some more information about the history of Glenfiddich and William Grant and Sons, please go ahead and visit the website, glenfiddich.com, and also learn a little bit more about the Balvenie. We have some beautiful bottles here, the 25-year-old triple cask. I've got the Glenfiddich 21-year-old back here in the background. I've got the Glenfiddich Grand Cru. Now this is one that we get in duty free. There's a lot of different scotches that can be found in duty free that you can't find anywhere else. And this is true for Glenfiddich specialty bottled single malt. So this is a beautiful bottle for which I will not open here and taste this with you. I'll wait until we open it on a special occasion. And then of course the Glenfiddich number 21. And again, these are all in beautiful triangular bottles, which also demark the Glenfiddich bottled whiskeys along with that stacked deer there. So what I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about is how to enjoy the whiskey. So hopefully some of you have been to whiskey tastings, maybe some not. But there are different ways people like to enjoy their whiskey. So some like it neat. Now this is definitely the way that I like to drink my whiskey. I like it neat, meaning I like it just straight. I prefer my whiskey just straight. Maybe that's because I've always had it this way. So please comment down below and let us know, first of all, how you like to drink your whiskey. If you like to drink whiskey, what is your favorite whiskey? Doesn't have to be a single malt or a Scotch. Scotch must actually be made in Scotland to be called a Scotch. There are single malts from Japan, as we all are learning about, and some other whiskeys that can be found around the world, especially bourbons from the South. So there's many different whiskeys to be found all around the world. So I like my neat just in a Cairngorm class, which we're told is the perfect shape for the breathing of the whiskey, for it to open up and really get all the aroma and flavors through that whiskey. With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try this Balvenie. So just how you should be trying to taste your whiskey is just first smell it. And what do you smell? Now, I'm actually drinking the triple cask, the 25-year-old, which is another of William Grant & Sons whiskeys, just because it's opened and it's a delicious whiskey. If you've never had a chance to try it, I highly recommend it. But first, smell a little bit of the aroma. I smells very heavy. I smell some butterscotch. It smells very spicy to me and kind of sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and try this. And when I put it into my mouth, I'm just going to let it rest on my tongue and into the back of my throat for a few minutes whilst breathing through the vapors in my mouth. So if you've got a whiskey or any other beverage that you want to enjoy right now, let's try doing that. Wow. So that's actually pretty good, just the way that it is. And it's very kind of heavy, but it's very good and full bodied. And I highly recommend, again, if you have a chance to get a 25-year-old bottle of the triple cask, the Balvenie triple cask is delightful. And now I'm going to use my dropper and actually add some water. So one thing you're really supposed to do, or highly recommended by the whiskey distillers and ambassadors, is to put a couple of drops of water into your whiskey. And I want to point out here, Angel's Share Glass. I want to thank Pam and Mike Reynolds and Angel's Share Glass for sponsoring ScotWeek and for sending me, Pam and Mike, this beautiful little stopper. I love this stopper. So I'm just going to go ahead and close off the hole on my glass stopper here. Once I put it into the water, and I'm just going to put a couple drops of water into my whiskey. Okay, just to kind of open it up. And this is supposed to really open it up, make it smell, which it does, a lot different. It actually is more and more butterscotch. It's less spicy. I actually smell maybe some white chocolate, maybe a little bit of a berry, a cranberry. Sort of, that's just what I'm smelling. So I'm going to go ahead and taste that in the same way. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my mouth, kind of breathe it in and take in the flavors before I swallow it. Delicious. It's definitely a different experience from just having the whiskey neat. Still, there are other people that like to have their scotch chilled. And some people like a big, maybe 1 cube of ice in their scotch where it can melt slowly as they sip on it so that it's chilled. But then it also gets little bits of water and 1 big piece of ice. And then still other people like the whiskey stones, which they keep in their freezer, so that when they put those into the whiskey, obviously it would make it cold without adding water to it at all. So it's just a matter of trying whiskeys, different whiskeys, finding out what you like. If you like peated whiskeys, non-peated whiskeys, Speysides, if you like blends, there's so many different types of whiskeys for you to try, and then figure out how you actually prefer to drink your whiskey. So again, please let us know down in the comments below which whiskeys that you like, that you enjoy, and if we can tour these whiskeys in Scotland, these distilleries, and send them back and display them for you, that would be great. And we can also have some of the ambassadors live here on ScotWeek for Whiskey Wednesday. So let us know what you would like to hear from. And if you enjoy you don't enjoy whiskey at all, you prefer to have a glass of wine or a glass of lemonade or a soda or water, just come and enjoy Whiskey Wednesdays here with us. We'll talk a little bit about ScotWeek and a little about the history of Scotland. So to go back to Glenfiddich, just telling a little bit more about their story and their history. Of course, in 1923 was the Prohibition was in full swing. William's grandson, Grant Gordon, joined the family firm. A surprising industry and increasing whiskey production. And as the decade and the law turns, we are one of only 6 distilleries still operating in Scotland, ready to meet new surge in demand for fine aged whiskeys. So in 1923, there were just 6 distilleries in Scotland. That's hard to believe. Last that I had talked to, I think it was Glenfiddich just before the pandemic, there was 124 distilleries in Scotland with 8 more that had applied to become distilleries. So I could be very wrong about that. If anybody, again, knows the exact number below, go ahead and enter it down below. And I also want to let you know, we are going to be having brand ambassador for the United States, Lauren Cousin, who's a dear friend of mine, is the brand ambassador for Glenfiddich here in the US. He's going to come on with us here hopefully next week and talk a little bit more about this brand and also about the Balvenie and the company William Grant and Sons. He's also a piper. He could talk to us more about that, and he probably knows that exact number. But just to think, just a little less than 100 years ago, there were only 6 distilleries producing in Scotland during the Prohibition. By 1957, Charles Gordon, William's great-grandson, insists on having coppersmiths on site at the distillery. They're rare and skilled craftsmen, always on hand to build and tend to the uniquely shaped and sized copper stills. In 1959, soon after coppersmiths were brought on site, Gordon Grant built up dedicated cooperages, never underestimating the importance of casks in developing exceptional whiskeys. Their on-site cooperage is one of the few that remains in distilleries still to this day. By 1961, water, air, and malted barley, a trinity expertly crafted to make the Glenfiddich whiskey, it inspires influential 20th century designer Hans Schleyer to create a radical design of the time, which is, again, this triangular bottle. You will find all Glenfiddich whiskey bottled in to this day. So that started in 1961. In 1963, Sandy Grant Gordon, great-grandson of William, is proud of a single malt that he makes Glenfiddich the first to be actively promoted outside of Scotland. Consumers around the world used to drinking blended whiskeys are initiated to the delightful single malt until they're the well-kept secret to the Scots. So they went ahead and started to expand and deliver outside of Scotland. 1987 was a special time at the distillery, celebrating their 100th year anniversary with a century and centenary bottling commemorating the founder and his dream to create the best dram in the valley. And again, the Glenfiddich number 12, the most sold single malt in the world to this day. I hope you'd enjoyed Whiskey Wednesday. I hope that you will go to the ScotWeek.org website and go ahead and look at our upcoming program in April. It's going to be great fun. And there's many things that if you cannot attend our events in person, you can still come online and come here to our YouTube channel and view a lot of what our production is going to be and see a lot of our presentations, as well as talks and interviews that we have with over 50 different businesses and people. I hope you've enjoyed this. Sign up, like, and subscribe, and we will see you here Friday for our next, we will be releasing on Friday, and each and every Friday, a segment for you to view from ScotWeek 2021. And then again, Whiskey Wednesdays, come back and see us here and come with us to New York, come with us to Scotland this year, come with us to some of the Highland Games around the world. Hope you've enjoyed this presentation of the Glenfiddich, William Grant and Sons. Have a wonderful evening and bye for now.